What's going on, fam? Welcome to a new video. In this video, we're gonna talk about the contracts that you need when it comes to finding a motivated seller who's ready to sell as it pertains to wholesaling real estate, y'all. Let's get it. So if you've been following this playlist and this series for the past, 7, 8 videos, we've been talking about how to wholesale properties literally with zero money out of your pocket. In this video, I want to talk about some things that's very important when it comes to sending a contract to the seller, like the language that you want inside of the contract to protect you just in the event that the deal goes south. You don't want to be held liable for any reason at all. So before we even talk about that, y'all, shout out to my Eagles. I know it's been a while since we did the last video. It's been a couple weeks. My bad, y'all. I've been super busy. Now let's talk about these contracts. And this is the contract between you as the wholesaler and the seller. Let's get it. All right, y'all, before we get into this contract, I do want to point out that this is the exact contract that I use when it comes to wholesaling real estate, y'all. And remember, this is the contract between you and the owner of the property. So at this point, you done talked to the seller, y'all done negotiated a price, y'all agreed to a price. Now you got to prepare the contract. You can use DocuSign, Dropbox Sign, DocHub. There's a couple of e-signature softwares out there. They all pretty much do the same thing, but I just want to talk about the contract. And I'm not going to go through every single word, but I want to go through the most important things. This agreement made on this, it could be the first day of January 2025, between the seller's name, so John Smith, and if it's two sellers, if it's a husband and a wife, or multiple people who own a property, make sure all their names are listed. And then of course your LLC or your name. You don't need a LLC to do this business. This could be your name, but whoever you are or your LLC name is, that goes right here. The buyer and seller, when mentioned together, may be referred to as parties. Seller agrees to sell to the buyer property known as the property address. This is where the property address would go. So, self-explanatory, the date, parties involved, the property address. In every contract, you will have to put down some type of earnest money deposit as far as what's on the contract. Now, personally, the earnest money deposit don't have to come from you. This could come from your buyer, if you set this up and do this the right way. But for me, on all my contracts, I just put $1,000, right? I've been doing this for a while. Sometimes I used to put $10 or $100. Just sometimes, man, sellers be tripping if they see $10 earnest money deposit. They think you're not serious. So I just keep it at $1,000. You could put $1. You could put anything you want, y'all. But I'm just telling you, for my purposes and what I do, I put $1,000. $1,000 to seller as earnest money deposit, which shall be delivered to Mikasa Title Group. This is the title company I use in Baltimore. And I just put the address in the parentheses right here, y'all. Within 2 days. So real quick, let me explain what earnest money deposit is, especially for my brand new people. So it is basically letting the seller know that you are serious. In general, if you go sell something to somebody, how do you know that they are serious, that they're going to follow through with buying what you're trying to sell them, right? You want them to put down a deposit to let them know that, he's serious. And that's all we saying here. We're going to be putting down $1,000, and this $1,000 will be delivered to the title company. So we don't send no money to the actual owner. It goes to the title company. And again, this money don't have to come out of your pocket. I'm letting them know that I'm gonna be sending this $1,000 within 2 business days after completion of inspection period. So what do I mean by this? All right, I'm letting the seller know I will put down the earnest money deposit of $1,000 after the inspection period, which we're going to talk about in this contract. So after we actually inspect the property, that's when you get your earnest money deposit. Now, if you can see what I'm doing here, this inspection period for me is my time to go find the buyer. Because what I just tell y'all, who is going to put down this $1,000? That buyer. And we're going to ask the buyer to put down a $2,000 earnest money deposit. And we'll talk about that in another video when it comes to the contract between you and the buyer. But we're just talking about us and the seller right now. If the buyer fails to close, the earnest money deposit will be forfeited to the seller as full liquidated damages. Basically saying, if we don't close on this property, they get to keep that $1,000. But remember, we're not even going to send them the $1,000 until we find an actual buyer within this completion of inspection period. Again, we're about to get to that. If seller cannot deliver marketable title to the property at buyer at closing, then the seller shall authorize title escrow to return the earnest money deposit. Basically saying, sometimes when you do these deals and you send these contracts to the title company is going to run title, basically meaning they're going to do a title search. And if anything pops up on that title search that's preventing us from being able to close, right, they can't keep the money, because that's not our fault that you got something on your title from the past before we was even in the picture. So that's very important. Purchase price, right? Buyer will pay the purchase price of, right, this is how much we agreed to, $50,000, $150,000, whatever y'all agree to, that goes right here. Let me just get to some important stuff. Property sold as is. The buyer is purchasing the property and as is. No repairs or improvement will be made to the property by the seller before closing. Remember, we are buying the property in as is condition, right? That's one of the benefits of selling to us to begin with. So we just letting them know you don't have to make no repairs. However, this agreement is contingent upon a satisfactory inspection of the property by the buyer or buyers, assigned or potential assignees. So this is the language that allows us to assign the contract, right? Letting them know that we got to inspect the property and it has to be a satisfactory inspection. You feel me? Closing terms and conditions. Closing will be within 30 days of both parties' execution of this contract. Basically saying after all parties have actually signed the contract, we got 30 days to close. Let me show you something else. If closing is not possible within this time due to issues pertaining to title or owner occupancy issues, closing may be extended for 45 days. Basically saying, you know, if title come back up with some things on there that we gotta address, we get to extend it for 45 days. Or if you got a tenant living in the property and they not cooperating, they not letting us get in the property and inspect the property, we get to extend it for 45 days. So on paper, y'all, we got 2.5 months to really find a buyer to get this done, which is more than enough time. Access to the property. Seller shall make the property reasonably accessible to buyer partners, agents, assignees, contractors, surveyors, lenders, or appraisers. Let them know, basically, we need access to the property, either if it's going to be me or my buyers or my partners, aka partners, you know. We need access. This agreement is subject to a satisfactory inspection of the property by the buyer 10 days after this contract is fully executed and received by buyer and seller. So let's break this down real quick, y'all. The seller signed and we signed. We got 10 days to do this inspection, right? Within that 10 days, that's when we send the buyers through. And then after we actually found a buyer within that 10 days, that's when that whole earnest money deposit is due. And that's going to be paid for by the buyer. So y'all can see how this all work together, where we're not coming out our pocket with no money, y'all. You see where it says buyer to pay for all seller customary closing costs? This offer is subject to financial partner's approval. Who is our financial partner? The cash buyer, the buyer that's actually going to actually buy the house, the one who's paying us. So this whole contract, this whole agreement is subject to us finding a buyer. This offer is subject to financial partner. A buyer is a financial partner, y'all. So that's how we protect ourselves in many ways, from the inspection period to this being subject to the financial partner. Multiple ways for us to back out if we can't find a buyer. And basically, as you can see right here, everybody signs. And this is the contract between us and the seller, I hope that helped. And every single year, y'all, I have my legal team actually go through this contract, go through the wording to make sure that we are compliant in what we are saying on this contract and making sure we don't get our stuff into any type of issues, any type of, you know, legal trouble. I've been doing this again since 2012. I have never been taken to jail or taken to court or anything like that. Because my paperwork, I try to keep it as tight as possible and legal as possible. And again, y'all, if you ever interested in learning more about what I do or trying to get into the real estate industry, but you don't have, you know, a whole lot of money, you just got a couple dollars to play with, make sure you go ahead, book a call with my team, and we can see how we definitely can help y'all. But until then, on the next video, y'all, I'm gonna do the contract between us and the actual buyer once we find a buyer, y'all. So that'll be a separate video. But yeah, man, I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all week, the rest of y'all month, the rest of y'all year. Talk to y'all in the next video, y'all. Let's get it.